This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening. They left with dreams of a better life, a new beginning, a chance to make their mark on a growing nation. But what they found was a nightmare. The stuff of legends, whispers, and American cautionary tales. It was supposed to be a new start in California. Instead, the Donner Party etched their names into the darkest corners of American history. Their story isn't just one of misfortune, it's a story of choice, trust, human endurance, and the cost of manifest destiny. This is Time Tellers, and I'm Renee.
And I'm Dan. And today, we're following the tragic journey of the Donner Dinner Party. From their hopeful beginnings in the Midwest to the frozen wilderness of the Sierra Nevada. Not to be confused with the beer. Where hunger, cold, and desperation would push them to the unthinkable.
And that's it for Dan. No, I'm just kidding. Please feel free to, Anyway.
You didn't say no improv allowed.
No improv allowed. No, I'm just kidding. The Donner Party story begins not in tragedy, but in optimism. In 1846, America was growing, restless and hungry for land. Illinois farmers like George Donner and James Reed believed in the promise of manifest destiny, that being the conviction that Americans were destined to expand across the continent.
No matter who used to live there or still did.
Yes, from sea to shining sea.
America.
George Donner was a relatively wealthy 62-year-old man who, with his brother Jacob, outfitted 3 wagons. James Reed, an enterprising and ambitious man, had served under Abraham Lincoln during the Black Hawk War. He was determined to make a new fortune in California, where land was plentiful and the promise of prosperity loomed. Their departure was not haphazard. The family spent months preparing. Reed even had a custom-made wagon called the Pioneer Palace Car, complete with a stove and upholstered seats. They left Independence, Missouri, as so many others started at that same spot, in May 1846, joining the typical westward migration along the Oregon Trail, not to be confused with the game that I played a lot in elementary school.
We even played it once together, kind of, sort of.
Sort of.
There's a recording of it. Someday it might come out.
Maybe. This group, originally part of the larger Russell Boggs Company, would split off into what would become known as the Donner Reed Party. The group was diverse, comprising families, single men, children, and elderly individuals. Many had never made such a journey before, and few could have foreseen what lay ahead. By the time they reached Fort Bridger in July, a fork in the road offered 2 choices. Follow the traditional trail or take Langsford Hastings' new publicized shortcut. Hastings' shortcut was advertised in his 1845 guidebook as a faster way to California, cutting through the Wasatch Mountains and across the Great Salt Lake Desert. What he didn't disclose was that he had never actually led a wagon train through this route. He had taken it by himself, on horseback, and just once. Despite direct warnings from mountain men James Clyman and the absence of Hastings himself at Fort Bridger, the Donner Reed Party pressed forward, believing that shaving off time would avoid early winter snow in the Sierras. Guess what? It didn't go well.
Really?
Spoiler alert. This is not a happy, fun episode. They faced almost immediate disaster. The Wasatch Range was thick with trees and steep climbs. It took nearly 2 weeks to clear a path. Then came the Salt Flats, blinding white, searing hot, with water sources that turned out to be poisonous or non-existent.
If only it was the Great Salt Lake instead of the Great Salt Flats.
But you can't drink salt water.
You can, just not for very long. I mean, or you could boil it. You can get the salt out of it.
Is boiling it enough to get the salt out of?
Well, you boil it, and then you just put something over it, and it'll evaporate into it.
Mm.
And then the salt will just stand alone.
I mean, there's definitely like a filtration thing, but I don't.
That's the easiest way I could think of to do it in a hurry.
They lost dozens of oxen, had to abandon wagons, and tensions ran high.
Did they break the axles
Probably.
and the tongues
Probably.
And
We are referencing the game now.
and the wheels
And they all died from dysentery. No.
and cholera?
Reed killed a man, John Snyder, in a fight and was banished. Though he continued west ahead of the group and would later be instrumental in organizing rescue efforts. So, beneficial, accidentally, maybe.
Accidentally, on purpose, he knew he was screwed.
The shortcut, quote unquote, the shortcut, had added nearly 125 extra miles and cost them precious time.
Was this a government agency?
Right, it's a lot of government agency interaction here. We're kidding. But,
no, we're not.
Well, I don't think this was the government's fault. One of the few times this is not the government's fault.
I'm just commenting on the efficiency.
Right. It's a good analogy.
Yes.
They reached the Sierra late in the season. Fatally late, which is what they were trying to avoid to begin with. By the end of October, snow began falling in the Sierra Nevadas. Most immigrants aimed to be through the mountains by early October. But the Donner Party reached Truckee Lake, now Donner Lake, named after the Donner Party, on October 28th.
They were nice enough to name a lake after them?
Well, something had to give.
That was nice.
Mm-hmm. The first snowfall dumped over 5 feet of snow. What was this, last Thanksgiving in Erie, Pennsylvania?
No, that's not enough. That would need to be about 9.
We didn't get that much. We got about 5 feet, I think.
It was more than 5 feet.
Attempts to cross the summit failed. They were trapped. The immigrants built crude shelters. The Donners were stuck 6 miles behind the leading group due to...
Snow?
No. What did you mention earlier?
Broken axle?
Yes, sir. They constructed tents and brush lean-tos. The others built cabins at the lake. Reed's family, the Breens, the Graves, and the Murphys among them. They quickly slaughtered their remaining cattle, dried the meat, and rationed what little flour and beans they had. When that ran out, they boiled rawhide and ate mice, pine bark, and eventually...
Poor mice.
The bodies of the deceased.
They waited till they were deceased?
At least at first.
They didn't cause them to be deceased?
No, I think the environment probably did that. Probably didn't need much. Historians note that early signs of starvation and hallucinations in journal entries. George Breen wrote about chewing on boiled hides. Margaret Reed wrote about her children begging for food and her desperation to keep them alive. Children as young as 6 were among the suffering. Some played in the snow until frostbite set in. They were alone in deep snow with no communication or knowledge of whether help would ever arrive. So, the Forlorn Hope, which was a group of 15 members, 10 men, 5 women, who on December 16th, 1848, set out. Each wore makeshift snowshoes fashioned from ox yokes, hide, and rope. They carried a meager supply of jerky, scraps of dried meat, and rawhide.
They should have went for the filling rations.
Right.
Meager.
Yep.
And they shouldn't have gone for grueling.
They were the party's last hope. They're like going out to see if they can get help, essentially, or find a way out for everyone else. But the snow was deep, at this point up to 12 feet in some places, and navigation was nearly impossible. Within days, the group became disoriented in whiteout conditions. Several died from exposure, including Franklin Graves, who had crafted the snowshoes himself for his daughters and companions. As food ran out, those remaining resorted to cannibalism. The group
What's cannibalism again for our listeners?
Eating of human flesh.
Well, you have to tell people these things.
Eating of human flesh.
Well, you can't just assume everybody would know that.
Fair enough. The group drew lots at one point to determine who would be killed to feed the others, which is what Dan was alluding to earlier. Though some died of natural causes first. Sarah Fosdick and Mary Graves, both in their 20s, watched as loved ones died and then helped prepared their remains for consumption, haunted forever by that necessity.
Were they fried, or what was the preferred method of preparation here?
Well, they were talking about they dried, like made jerky and stuff, but I don't know how much like firewood and stuff they had. Well, it's the mountains, though. So.
Yeah, that'd be something.
Yeah.
Like just sitting there with a rotisserie.
One survivor, William Eddy, recalled, quote, "We tried to speak of the future, but our tongues stuck to the roof of our mouths. The wind cut like razors, and still we pressed forward," unquote. This is still the smaller group, by the way. Their 33 trek through the Sierra covered nearly 100 miles, mostly on foot, through dense snow and mountainous terrain. By the time they stumbled into Johnson's ranch near Wheatland, California, only 7 remained. 2 men and 5 women, blackened by frostbite, emaciated, and nearly blind from snow glare. The California Star reported at the time, quote, "Half-dead creatures appeared at the edge of the woods, their eyes sunken, faces blackened with frost. They whispered of children left behind in snow caves." Their arrival triggered a rescue effort that would soon become a race against death. And my question is, did they even know where they were? Because they got lost. Like, how would they tell them where to go? 4 rescue parties braved the mountains between February and April 1847. The first, led by Daniel Rhodes and organized by James Reed, who had safely reached Sutter's Fort earlier, arrived on February 18th. What they found was worse than they imagined. That's true. I guess James Reed probably knew where they were.
At least, or sort of.
Yeah, closely. Had a notion. What they found was worse than they imagined. Children with frostbitten limbs, families too weak to move, and bodies partially consumed. AKA eaten. The rescuers could only take the healthiest. Others had to wait for the second and third relief teams, which brought more food, warm clothes, and sleds. Sleds to carry, like the ones that couldn't walk. Like, yeah. That's like...
And maybe some horses, or not horses, some dogs?
Like sled dogs?
Yeah, Balto.
The rescue party also learned of ghastly scenes. Louis Keseberg, the last person rescued, was found alone, emaciated, and mentally unwell. I can't imagine why he would be mentally unwell. Bones were scattered in the cabin. Rumors spread that he had killed Tamsin Donner to eat her, though no evidence proved it. And this is one of those things like, yes, you shouldn't kill people. That's bad.
Generally speaking.
Generally speaking, that is very bad. But in this situation, if he was, I could totally see him completely off his rockers and not knowing right from wrong. That's one of those times where the insanity defense would probably work.
Yeah, but that's the defense that always works, no matter what.
That never works. What are you talking about? It's very hard to get an insanity defense to work.
It depends on what the crime was.
Yeah. But this is one of those situations where it
like, for example,
would have worked.
If I tried to steal your chocolate, you'd kill me. And then,
justifiable homicide. What?
See? And you would use this to do it.
Okay. Patrick Breen's diary, kept faithfully through the ordeal, recorded, quote, "March 1st, Mrs. Murphy said she thought she would commence on Milt and eat him. I don't think she has done so yet. It is distressing," unquote.
Really? It's distressing?
Right, and I've never heard this word commence used in this context. But using context clues, I would assume that means, like, attack. Like
commence the attack.
Yeah. Throughout the rescue efforts, 48 of the original 87 immigrants survived, which is more than I thought survived. I thought everybody died. Like, no. I think there was a single survivor of the ones that got stuck separated. Among the dead were men, women, and children. Entire families were wiped out. Some survivors, including Margaret Reed, were reunited with their banished husband, James Reed, in California. The survivors never forgot. Of course, I don't know how you would forget that. Many bore lifelong scars, both physical and psychological. So why risk such a journey? Remember, this is the 1840s, 1848. Why abandon your home, your comforts for an uncertain life 1,000 miles away? This is a question we ask not of only the Donner Party, but all of the people in the world, really, that decide to just up and go somewhere else. For George Donner and James Reed, California represented opportunity. In the 1840s, the U.S. economy was volatile. The Panic of 1837 had left many families without security. And remember, this is like a century before the thought of Social Security, which really started during the Great Depression in the 1930s with the New Deal and stuff. Yep. California, still under Mexican rule but loosely governed, seemed a place where new beginnings were possible. Because land was cheap, the climate mild, and reports from early settlers like John Sutter painted a picture of abundance. And we've mentioned Manifest Destiny before, primarily in our Lewis and Clark episode from the first season. Yeah. But that ideology of Manifest Destiny had definitely taken hold. It was one of the more successful propaganda America has promoted in our country. Yeah. By far. I mean, not that there aren't others, but this was definitely done to the extreme and done well. At least it was successful. Yeah. For colonists and immigrants. Not so much for the people that were already there. I lost my place. Okay. Americans believed it was their divine right to expand westward and tame the continent. That's not at all condescending. No. Yeah. She says sarcastically. Newspapers, politicians, and preachers pushed this vision aggressively. Like I said, propaganda. James Reed saw himself as a pioneer, a man who would become a landowner, maybe even a local leader. George Donner, though older and more cautious, was likely swayed by the enthusiasm of his companions and the promise of more land for his children. They weren't poor or uneducated travelers. They were middle-class farmers, literate, that means they could read and write, and relatively well off. And they were emblematic of their time. So let's talk about the mountains themselves. Have you ever seen them? You've seen them.
Which mountains are we referring
Sierra
to?
Nevadas.
Maybe.
I saw them on a train ride when I was 15. We went out to San Francisco.
I'm just trying to think about a little bit over that far.
The Sierra Nevadas is a mountain range that doomed the Donner Party. It is breathtaking, formidable, and deeply dangerous. It stretches over 400 miles. The range is defined by rugged granite peaks, narrow canyons, and some of the deepest snowfalls in the continental U.S. outside the city of Erie. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'd say we'd probably get more.
No, I don't think so. Not on the regular.
Let's look it up.
I'm not. You look it up, but on the regular, I do not think so. Maybe last year, but we didn't even come first in the snow globe, did we? I thought Rochester beat us out.
No.
Did we squeak by? Oh, okay. I know it's close, but anybody doesn't know what the snow globe challenge is. It's like the Great Lakes area, like who gets the most
Typically
snowfall.
receives an average of 300 to 500 inches a year.
Yeah, we don't receive that much, even close. I think we were 130, and that was like, no, we were about we were much higher than that last year.
Yeah.
But what's Erie's average? Because it sure as heck ain't that.
104.3.
That's what I thought. It was a lot higher last year because of the Thanksgiving Day snowstorm that actually had the National Guard in here and shut down the city, and yet we still had to make up the snow days for the school district because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyways.
2017, it was 198.5 for Erie.
Yeah, that was the other big snowstorm because I was pregnant with my youngest and was trying to figure out how I was going to shovel out. Yeah. That was a Christmas snowstorm that didn't affect any school time because it happened on Christmas break.
As it should. You shouldn't deserve to have fun on your time off. You already get your 6 months off.
That's hilarious.
And here you go educating people during your free time.
July 23rd, we are recording this. Yep. Donner Pass, where the group was stranded, sits at an elevation of 7,056 feet. It's notorious for experiencing early and heavy snowstorms, if only they had known that. In 1846, the storm that trapped the party arrived on October 28th, nearly a month earlier than typical for such accumulation. Like, it wasn't even just a dusting. Like, we get that dusting, all the time, and it's like, oh, here it comes, and then it stops. Without snowshoes, trail markers, or weather forecasts, the immigrants had no chance of survival without outside help. Today, Interstate 80 cuts through the pass. Snowplows, avalanche controls, and roadside assistance are common, but in 1846, it was wilderness. Uncharted, merciless, and isolating.
So I could get on 80 and go that way instead of New York?
Yeah.
But I can't do that. I'd go the wrong way.
Seems like a mistake.
New York versus that?
Donner Memorial State Park now stands as a poignant reminder of the tragedy that occurred. Visitors walk the same trails, see the same trees, or at least some of them, and face interpretive signs that ask, would you have survived? The Donner Party's tragedy has been echoed tragically in other survival stories across the U.S. and world history. We'll talk about a few here. In 1856, the Willie and Martin Handcart Companies, Mormons immigrants traveling to Utah, were caught in an early snowstorm in Wyoming. In that situation, over 200 died. Their tragedy mirrored the Donners, except that they had poor planning, too late departures, and faith that couldn't overcome the harshness of frostbite. In 1972, there's the Andes flight disaster, which became an international echo of the same ordeal. A plane carrying a rugby team crashed in the Andes Mountains. Stranded for 72 days, the survivors eventually resorted to cannibalism. They were only saved when 2 men hiked out, just as for the Forlorn Hope group had.
And Catherine Doughty made a really, really good documentary on that.
Yeah, I watched it, actually. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
I like all of her stuff.
I've probably seen it, just never realized it was her. So, even more modern events reflect similar dynamics, such as Hurricane Katrina, where a lack of preparation and government failure turned a natural disaster into a humanitarian crisis on a much larger scale. Obviously, much larger area. Well, I mean, the snowstorm went all over the place, but much bigger group of people. The survival depends not only on the strength of individuals, but also on the systems and decisions surrounding them. The Donner Party story isn't just about survival, however. It's about the moral choices that arise when everything else is stripped away. Their ordeal challenges the romantic view of westward expansion. Manifest destiny, so often celebrated in textbooks, had consequences. For the Native Americans displaced, for the environment altered, and for families like the Donners, whose dreams were shattered by arrogance and poor judgment. They weren't foolish or unprepared, they were misled. Hastings' guidebook, full of exaggerations and misinformation, was a 19th century version of dangerous advice found on social media today. So the bad guy in the story? Hastings. That's the moral of that. And here you get to jump back in.
This part always gets me. It's easy to look back and judge, but people still fall for shortcuts. Whether it's an untested crypto scheme or a rogue backcountry trail they saw on YouTube, especially in the middle of nowhere in Georgia.
Don't do it.
Wait, put that banjo away.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Sorry.
That was inappropriate.
Finish your sentence.
Human nature doesn't change much.
Exactly. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we witnessed the consequences of ignoring science or delaying action. Panic buying, all that toilet paper.
Oh, I know. I got to guard it.
Overwhelmed systems, leaders slow to respond. It all mirrors what happened in 1848-6 on a larger scale. There were also gender dynamics, too. Women like Tamsin Donner, Mary Graves, and Margaret Reed carried the emotional and physical burden of keeping their families alive. Tamsin famously stayed behind to comfort her dying husband when she might have survived otherwise. Mary Graves walked hundreds of miles and watched her sister die in the Forlorn Hope group. Their strength is a thread often overlooked in the broader narrative, but crucial to understanding what endurance truly entails. Modern society continues to grapple with questions of sacrifice, misinformation, and systematic failure. The Donner story is an early American example of what happens when nature, human error, and institutional gaps collide. Now, I do think it might be a little much to say this was the government's fault, because I don't know what resources the government was providing in terms of, knowledge.
It was Joe Biden's fault.
Obviously.
Wait, which clone?
But this Hastings guy, this is why you need to check stuff out before you follow it. Ugh. The legacy of the Donner Party is complex, tragic, and haunting. Today, Donner Memorial State Park stands near the site of the cabins. There is a museum, as Dan noticed earlier. There are some places to eat. Towering granite monument.
Nobody is capitalizing on their many choices.
And plaques commemorating the names of the dead and survivors. A bas-relief sculpture depicts a pioneer family cast in solemn granite, forever looking west. Also, beyond the memorials, the story endures in literature, film, and family memory. Survivors went on to rebuild their lives. Virginia Reed, just 12 years old during the ordeal, grew into a woman who often spoke about her experience. In a letter to her cousin, she wrote, quote, "Remember, never take no cutoffs and hurry along as fast as you can," unquote. Her words became a kind of moral for westward expansion and a lesson in skepticism. Also, if it's too good to be true, it's not true. Same
Usually.
lines. Yeah.
Oh, there's the statue.
Oh, it's very nice. Books like The Indifferent Stars Above by Daniel James Brown and Desperate Passage by Ethan Rarick explore the story with empathy and historical rigor. The PBS American Experience documentary remains a definitive visual account of the story. Even pop culture revisits the tale, from drunk history to horror films that use cannibalism as a metaphor. But at its core, it isn't a ghost story, it's a human one. Some descendants of survivors have reclaimed the Donner name with pride, emphasizing resilience. Others have distanced themselves from the tale, unwilling to be associated with cannibalism. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. But remains clear is this: the story forces us to confront our limits, our courage, and our morality and mortality.
And honestly, it reminds me that survival isn't always heroic. Sometimes it's just messy, painful, and full of impossible choices.
Well said, Dan. And for our listeners, if you want to explore this further, as mentioned before, The Indifferent Stars Above by Daniel James Brown, Ordeal by Hunger by George R. Stewart, and Desperate Passage by Ethan Rarick are some books. The PBS American Experience, just called The Donner Party, they did it in 1992.
It wasn't a great party. 0 of 10.
0 out of 10.
Do not recommend.
Another documentary, Snowbound, the Jim and Jennifer Stolpa story. This was done in 1994. It is a similar modern events that have comparison to. I have not watched that. I did watch the PBS American experience, but not the other one. Then, of course, we have the Donner Memorial State Park in Truckee, California, and the Immigrant Trail Museum, which features original artifacts and immigrant narratives. So, thank you for joining us on American. I just renamed our show. Thank you for joining us on Time Tellers. The story of the Donner Party isn't just history, it's a mirror. A tale of what happens when we're tested beyond measure, and a reminder that of the human cost behind the American dream.
If you like this episode, share it with a friend or leave us a review and let us know what would you like us to explore next. Or if you need recipe ideas.
Oh my gosh. We do need more reviews. Spotify, we've been sitting at 15 for a long time, and you could comment on Spotify, which is nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can do that on any of the other platforms because I don't really use
some. You can, but I don't.
Sometimes, but I mean, remember we're on our website, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we are on iHeartRadio, we're on Audible,
we're on YouTube.
I said that. I said YouTube.
You did say YouTube. We're on Facebook.
Yes, we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. We're on TikTok.
For now, till it has to become M2 or whatever.
I'm ignoring that. I'm
pretty sure most people are.
Yes, I'm ignoring that because it is just beyond ridiculous, and it's just we're the laughing stock of the world.
Hey, when do you get to update our Truth Social page?
Don't have that, and we'll never have that, and I want nothing to do with that. We are not on X either.
We aren't?
I am not on X, and if there's anything with my name out there that's on X, I will be very upset.
Well, I'm not either, but
okay.
I think I have an account, but I haven't been.
I deleted my account.
Oh, I don't. I would have to remember how to log into it to delete it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, no, we're not on X. We're not on Truth Social. But all the rest, we're there. I try my best.
Patreon, you should join that, so that way you can get like T-shirts and stuff,
and stickers.
Yeah, and stickers. Lots of stickers
and magnets
and unedited episodes.
No.
Okay, extended episodes.
Maybe.
Extended means unedited.
No, it does not.
It means you have to listen to all 18 hours per episode like I have to, and I'm trying to cut these down.
Oh, that is such bull crap. Don't let him trick you.
Hey, if they listen to me, it's their own fault. Know your sources.
Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep telling the stories that matter. Because the past isn't dead, it's just waiting to be remembered. That was a good one. Bye.